students even. So just so you know, great. So welcome. So I am Dr. Natasja van Gestel. I am the lead scientist here at Palmer Station, and this is my student, Diego.
Hi, nice to meet you. I am Diego. I am work conductor Van Gestel here in Antarctica. So yeah, it's a pleasure to have you guys here with us.
And guess what? We have somebody from Brazil who just joined us.
Really?
Yeah, from Rio de Janeiro.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, I'm from Brazil too, so
This is great. Boa tarde. So good afternoon.
yeah.
That's great. So we're gonna get started. So thanks again for joining us. And then because I know there's a lot of schools that are joining us as well, I had a quick question, and then for all the schools, where in the world is Antarctica? Is it gonna be at the top of the world or the bottom of the world? And you can write the answers in the chat if you'd like, once all your students are responding. Okay, Esther and Eleanor say bottom. Okay, and I have some other people saying the bottom. You are correct. So we have the Arctic, of course, in the north.
Yeah, I think you got to get the.
Oh, yeah.
It's on 100%.
Guys, our speaker's on. Shush.
Anyway,
But it's not projecting up there.
I put it on video and took your microphone was off and put it on.
okay. No, that's good.
That
So
means they can hear us.
So, yeah.
Not with the microphone. I don't want them to hear us. So how do I do that?
you can yeah, there's a mute button on the bottom, I think, somewhere. Yeah. So yeah, the Antarctic is at the bottom, and there are actually quite a few differences between the Arctic and the Antarctic. So in the Arctic, we have the polar bears, and then we also have walruses. Actually, let me change my laser pointer. So we have polar bears in the Arctic, walrus, narwhals, pretty cool animals, reindeer. We have musk ox and whatnot. In the Antarctic, we don't have any of these. In the Antarctic, we have penguins, and then we have certain seals, we have whales that come by, and we do have a bird that actually migrates all the way from the Arctic and makes it all the way across the world to the bottom of the world, and it's the tern. And so the tern migrates from north to south, which is pretty amazing. So there's quite a few differences, as you know now. Antarctica doesn't have any polar bears, foxes, wolves, or anything like that. So it's mostly dominated by penguins, actually. It's one of the most numerous species that are here, along with some of the crab-eater seals. So it's pretty amazing. So quite a few differences. The other thing that's different between the Arctic and Antarctica is that in the Arctic, we have people that live there permanently. Yeah, so they're always there, right? They have their homes there. Whereas in Antarctica, none of us are here forever. We're only here temporarily. So
Yeah.
Diego and I have been here or will be here
6, 7 months.
for 6 months. So yeah, we're only here temporarily. Some people might winter over, so stay here for the winter and then return again the next season. All right, I have another question for the schools out there. So currently, what season is it in the what season is it in the Arctic? Is it currently still winter, close to spring, or is it summer, close to fall? Which one is it?
Winter.
It is winter. Wow, that was a very quick answer. So congratulations. In the Arctic, it's currently winter, whereas here in Antarctica, it is the summer. So bear in mind that New Year's and Christmas in New Zealand and Australia and South America, that is celebrated in the middle of their summer. All right, so Antarctica is a really big continent. It's actually about 1.5 times the size of the United States. It's also twice the size of Australia, and you can fit about 60 UKs, United Kingdoms, in there. This continent is pretty amazing. And I'll tell you why. First of all, it is the coldest place on Earth. The average temperature in Antarctica in the wintertime is minus 35 Celsius or minus 30 degrees Fahrenheit. And it holds the coldest temperature record of about minus 129 Fahrenheit, which is incredible. It's a large continent that's surrounded by an ocean, and that ocean, as you can see in this figure, freezes up. So there's all the sea ice that's forming around in the winter time, and it effectively doubles the size of Antarctica. The mean thickness of that ice sheet is about 1.2 miles. So that ice sheet, that ice cover that's on the continent, it's 1.2 miles on average. Yeah, so if all of the ice on that continent were to melt, sea level rise would be about 190 feet, which is amazing. So there are 3 stations in Antarctica that are managed by the US Antarctic Program, which is run by the National Science Foundation, which is funding my project. So we have Palmer Station here on the lower left. And Palmer Station is basically in the warmest part of Antarctica, and we have plants here, which is what I study. Then we have the South Pole Station right in the middle, right on the South Pole. And then we have McMurdo Station, which is a larger station. It's actually the largest of the 3 stations. But I'm here at Palmer Station. And one other thing I wanted to demonstrate is that you can kind of see South America, the tip of South America here, and then Palmer Station is on this side. But how on earth do I get to Palmer Station here? Well, first of all, to travel there, so I live in Texas, so I know a lot of people are joining here from Texas as well. Hello, fellow Texans. So what we did is I traveled from Lubbock to Dallas, and then we went through Miami this year, but anyways, and then from Dallas to Santiago, from Santiago to Punta Arenas, and then very slowly, because all of those were flights, but that last part is done by ship. And that's incredible. What an experience. So we're crossing here. So here's the tip of South America, and here's the tip of the Western Antarctic Peninsula right here. So to cross this takes about 4 to 5 days, depending on the weather conditions and the ocean, the ocean conditions. So this is the Drake Passage, which are also the roughest oceans in the world, because you've got this big mass of water that's going around the Antarctic continent, and they all squeeze in between these 2 continents, so South America and then Antarctica. So if you're there on a low pressure system, the waves can be pretty impressive. So it's been quite an experience, and I'll share a little bit of that experience with you as well. I got a question in the chat, so feel free to ask questions in the chat as well. How long does the total trip take? Well, with the flight, that could take about 2 days, maybe in total, depending on where you are, and then another 4 to 5 days. So it could take about a week or so just to go from the US to Antarctica. So I have some more questions about infrastructure, and I'll get to that in a little bit as well when I talk about station. This is the research vessel that we both traveled on, the Nathaniel B. Palmer. And I believe it is an icebreaker as well. And this is an incredible ship that's really outfitted with labs and a lot of science equipment. My favorite part on the ship was, of course, to be on the bridge. And so on the bridge, you have the best view of any animals that are there. So we had some dolphins that kind of like traveled with us. They were our companions for a little bit. And it's just fun to see them go alongside the ship as well. And then, of course, there are lots of seabirds. We have some Magellanic penguins in here on the way. We have giant petrels that are so graceful in flight. We have albatrosses. This is the black-browed one. It almost looks like it has mascara. Just incredible. And they're just so beautiful and graceful. And then we have some birds that get pretty close to the ship as well, and these are actually one of my favorites, and these are the Cape petrels or the Pintado petrels, and so they're pretty fantastic. I got a question about if we build igloos. No, we don't, but I know igloos are built in the Arctic. So let me share with you how the crossing was, because initially everything is calm, right? But then you round the South American continent and then head into the Drake.
And it's not fun anymore.
It's not fun anymore, and I'll share with you why. Okay, brace yourselves. So it was quite stressful on occasion, and it's not always like this, but this is definitely this was a couple of years ago when uh, when we were traveling. Okay, so let's see. I did have another question about living and what it's like to be living in Antarctica, so I'll get to that too if there are no trees and the average temperature. So I'm gonna go back to some of those questions in a little bit as well. So, but it's so worth it. Once you
Yeah.
cross the Drake Passage, you get into this beautiful land that it's just so incredible how beautiful it is. And so as we're getting towards Palmer Station and you're surrounded by these mountains, and then also icebergs, and some of those icebergs will have, penguins on them. Look for life. There might be seals, there might be killer whales, there might be, a whole bunch of life. The icebergs are fantastic. And as I stated earlier, there's also mountains that are rising straight out of the ocean, and it's seriously majestic and it makes you feel so small. Um, and then we have Palmer Station. That's when we arrive. This station is situated in a most beautiful location. You can see this domed appearance. Let me get the laser pointer again. This domed appearance, that's the glacier behind station. And then there's the big mountain, Mount William, behind it. It's absolutely fantastic. I got a question from Beth that Esther is wondering if the ship was close to sinking in the video. Actually, it wasn't as much. It can handle the rough seas pretty well. It's just, it doesn't feel like fun if you're on the ship. It feels like you're on a roller coaster.
Yeah, so sleep is terrible. It's
Sleep-
experts a terrible experience is sleeping.
Yeah, sleeping is, definitely terrible, where your stomach is above your head sometimes, and then you're also moving sideways in the bed or this way, depending on how you're in bed. So there's a way you can prop up your mattress so that you can wedge yourself in on the bed. So yeah, sleeping is no fun during that, but we were safe. So that was an excellent question. Okay. Okay, so on station we have these birds that are walking around. They're wild birds, but we don't interfere with them or anything, and they're not afraid of us. And we always are careful where they're at. Anyways, these are the sheath bells, and they have built nests on station as well. Um, so station is amazing. First of all, we have a small community, and we brought in all this material. So this reverts back to the question that was asked about how do people live there. Well, we have research stations that are built with materials brought from the mainland, so from South America or even all the way from the US as well. And so we live in these dormitories that are part of this building. This building has everything. It has a lounge, dining area. It has a kitchen, it has dormitories, showers, you name it. And of course the labs. So here are Diego and I. This was only 2 weeks ago. We're doing a lab experiment. Um, and the building it stays warm because we have generators as well. They run on fuel, and so it's always warm in the building. It's really nice. Somebody asked if anybody has climbed the mountains from earlier. I think some of them have, and there's also some tourism as well, where people do go up those mountains. So cool. And here's another lab. Here are Abby and Charlotte, and they are experts in using this robot that's in between them, the yellow torpedo looking thing, but it's actually a robot that has tons of sensors. And I'll talk more about this glider, as we call them, and what it can do. It's pretty amazing. And as I stated earlier, so we have a kitchen and we have this huge pantry with lots of food. This is Fran Schiel. He is the main chef on station. And then we have Aaliyah here on the right. You can see she just made sushi, which was quite a treat. This was for New Year's. Aaliyah and Fran are amazing chefs. And I do think that having excellent chefs like them totally makes it it just changes the ambiance of the station and it's just so fun and such great food. Um, Somebody asked about where we take the trash. Well, some of the trash gets compacted, made as small as possible, and it's being brought back to the mainland. Some of the trash is recyclable, so we do recycle here as well. So yeah. All right, so and every day we have a buffet. We have a buffet at not breakfast, lunch, dinner,
In dinner, yeah.
And then we have two more things.
Yeah, the breaks.
We have the breaks. So we have the 10 o'clock break as well as a 3 o'clock break, where we get either like cookies or hot chocolate or something.
They're
So
just spoiled.
for those of you who like the Lord of the Rings, I feel like a hobbit. We've had one breakfast, yes. Anyways, really fun. Also, in case people get injured, we can treat some minor injuries in this clinic. This is Dr. Rich Harper. He was here in 2019, and this is the clinic. We now have a different doctor in station, Joe Moriarty. Anyways, they can treat things like, they can do some stuff with broken bones, not much. We might have to buy people some time until they can get to the mainland or at least South America for treatment or be flown back to the US if something more serious is going on. But in any case, we do have a clinic that can treat certain things. And so, yeah, we're pretty lucky. So we're trying to stay safe and we have tons of safety meetings to make sure that, hey, if it's windy outside, make sure to prop the door a certain way just so you don't get injured and everything like that. So we do try to stay as safe as we can. Okay. Oh yeah, so I do see in the chat our son Kevin works with you. Yeah, Kevin Strand is basically the main person that does all the carpentry here and what is it, the facility and maintenance and carpentry. So he oversees all of that as well as the electric on station. So it's pretty amazing. And I did see a question about microbes, but Addison, maybe I can, if you would like to send me an email, I can also address that as well. Oh yeah, so let me go back here. So the reason I have this picture is remember I said that Palmer Station is at the base of a glacier. This is that glacier. It's called the Mar-Ijs-Piedmont Glacier. And that glacier has retreated over time. Now, a lot of the glaciers on the Western Antarctic Peninsula, pretty much all of them have retreated. And I wanted to share with you how much that glacier has retreated since 1975. So this picture is from 1975. You can see two white tanks that are currently black, but these are the fuel tanks. So this is how we stay warm, right? This is some of the fuel that we're using. And keep an eye on that fuel tank. It's only about a minute walk, right, to get to the glacier back in 1975. I'm going to show you the next picture that was taken in 2023. And here are those same fuel tanks, now painted in black. And you can see how much the glacier has retreated over time. It's now more of a 25-minute walk. It's pretty incredible how fast it's been decreasing, retreating, and it's also not only retreating, but it also is getting less in height. So it's like melting right before our eyes. So it's pretty amazing how quickly that is happening. So one more thing is I have different research sites set up in this glacier because the glacier has retreated. It opened up this whole area where plants will start growing. And so I have a beautiful gradient from no plants near the glacier to some plants here close to station. And then our favorite site, which is on Litchfield Island. So to get to the island, we have all been trained on how to use the Zodiac. The Zodiac is a military style boat and it is a lot of fun to drive one of those. So this is my student Sarah. She was here a couple of years ago as well and absolutely loved it. So learning how to use the zodiac, it gives you a lot of independence. And as a researcher myself, I love to be independent and make sure that we can get our research done without relying on too many people. So once you get boat operator trained, we have the freedom to go places. And so it's been really fantastic. And the Antarctic support contract is fantastic here on station. So they help with all the science support, and that includes all the trainings as well. Okay, so once we get to Litchfield Island, we have lots of mosses. So we have mosses that are forming these major carpets right on rock. So somebody asked me earlier, how do we live if there are no trees? So you already know there are no trees in Antarctica. In fact, there are not even any shrubs in Antarctica, which is incredible. So the tallest vegetation is what you see here. It doesn't get more than a couple of inches. That's the tallest of the native vegetation that's here as well. I got a few more questions. What is the hottest temperature that I've experienced? Normally here where we are at Palmer Station, it's been hovering between 30 and 40 Fahrenheit. I believe one of the warmest temperatures recorded here was around 61 Fahrenheit. And there are mushrooms and fungi as well in Antarctica. You don't see them much though. So I did find actual the physical, mushrooms, but normally you only see the mycelial network in the soils, but you don't see the fruiting bodies of the mushroom. So what we do see a lot are the lichens. So lichen have a fungus as well as alga or cyanobacteria or something that they work together with. And so these little stem things is actually a lichen called Usnea antarctica. And then you can see some of the mosses here, and then you can see some of the brown lichen. So it's really this cool Zen garden that we have once the communities get established. So this is how a mature community will look like, eventually also behind station. Yeah. So here's another example of mosses. Mosses don't need soil to grow in. They can start growing straight on rock. And then once the mosses start growing, then other plants can start growing on them as well. I got a question about if there's a bunker here that holds seeds from around the world. I know there is one up in the Arctic, I believe near Svalbard area, if I'm correct, that are holding the seeds from around the world. But I think because of climate change, they might have to change where they're storing that as well. But I don't know about the Antarctic. That's something I might have to check in on. Okay. So the mosses are really fantastic. Here's a moss with a dewdrop on there. And it's just amazing to see all these carpets. It's weird to imagine a landscape without trees or shrubs, but here we are, and it's just beautiful carpets. Oh yeah, okay, cool. It is so William Ambrose mentioned, yes, there is a seed vault in Longyear Bien in Svalbard. So yeah, that's way up in the Arctic. Oh yeah, we do see penguins here as well, and I'll show you some penguin photos. So my experiment, thank you, Will, for addressing that question as well. So in my experiment, I want to warm the air and soil and see how the mosses are responding to it, to the warming. So I have some what we call control plots that don't have a chamber, and then we have these warmed plots that do have a chamber. What do the chambers do? They warm the air inside. How can we determine that, whether or not warming is being effective? Well, you can buy these really cool adapters for an iPhone or for any phone. And then it's a thermal camera as well. And the lighter it is in this figure, the warmer it is. And you can see that with inside where the open top chambers are, it's going to be warmer than the surrounding area. So yeah, it's pretty amazing. And you can also see that if you were to take a picture. So here I took a picture of Sarah, that you can see that her face is the lightest. So that's also the warmest part currently. So it's working really well. So it's pretty cool. All right, so I measure how active plants are under warmer conditions. Are they going to be more active or not? Are they photosynthesizing more or not? Or are they respiring more? Are they getting more stressed? So this is a device that we plunk onto the soil or onto the plants, and we measure the activity that's happening, all the life that's there. It's pretty amazing. And so we put that chamber, and then we measure the rates of activity of these plants and mosses. We do it on Litchfield Island, and then we do it also here. You can see this is the glacier, so that's the site that I have closest to the glacier, because guess what? In the soil, we also have microbes that can photosynthesize. So there's definitely some photosynthesis going on there. So it's really exciting. Okay, so I talked a little bit about my research, but a lot of Antarctica is under ice, and there's very few ice-free areas. There's more at McMurdo and other areas. But around Palmer Station, I want to highlight the research that's being done here. So you can see there's a lot of water. And so a lot of people are looking at the marine ecosystem. And so we have a group that's looking at seabird populations. We have a group that looks at krill. They kind of look like shrimp, but they're not. But they look, as I said, very much like shrimp. You can see they have a little bit of green in them because they eat something called phytoplankton, which are not plants, but kind of like a microscopic version of a plant. And here we have some phytoplankton on the right-hand side. So that's what these krill eat. This krill are very important because penguins rely on the krill, as well as on some of the fish that are there. And then we have whales. And so I'll tell you a little bit more about that as well. But yeah, so the whales eat krill as well. So these are very important. The krill are very important for the ecosystem, as well as the phytoplankton. So let's talk about penguins first. So I got several questions. Have you seen different kinds of penguins? Yes, we have.
It's the best part.
It's the best part. So we have some penguins that did not used to be here. So back in 1990, this species of penguin, can anybody tell me what species this is? You can put it in the chat if you'd like. So this species of penguin that you see on this picture is a sub-Antarctic species, and the first individual was encountered back in 1990 or 1991, somewhere in the early 90s. But now they are the most numerous. So they're more common than the ones that we did used to have a lot here. So does anybody know? Oh, I got an answer. Emperor, it's not an emperor. And Taylor, yes, it is pink. Gentoo. Okay, we got a winner. Laura had the right answer. It's a Gentoo penguin. Gentoos are really cool. They're pretty big. I believe they are the third largest penguin. Gentoos are now more common than the truly Antarctic species of penguin that we have here. Gentoos are really funny. And I love observing them. I can just sit there for hours just observing them from a distance. This penguin species here is the Adelie. Adelie are a truly ice-dependent Antarctic species, and now they're not as numerous here around Palmer Station as what they used to be. And then we have another species of penguin, and this is called the chinstrap penguin because of the chin strap. And these are actually my favorite species of penguin. And you can tell me in the chat which one is your favorite species of the three as well. Kari asked me if I've seen any emperor penguins, but I have not, but we've had a lone emperor penguin show up here as well. And then we have penguin researchers. So these are Darren and Megan Roberts. They are a married couple who've been studying or researching the penguins here for many years. And they work with a researcher, Dr. Megan Cimino, and she's the lead scientist on this project. And so they're interested in the penguins and what they eat, how long they're gone for. They have attached these really cool cameras on the penguin's back to get a penguin's eye view of what it's like to be a penguin and to find food. So I'm going to show you how that looks like. So you can see it found its other penguin friends as well, and they're swimming around in the water. And then I'm going to start the video on the right as well. The video on the right will, well, it kind of looks green, and it's not an artifact of anything. It's just because there's so many phytoplankton there, it colors the water green. And where the phytoplankton are, what eats the phytoplankton? Do you remember what eats the phytoplankton? A very important animal that we discussed. Krill, exactly. So let's see if this penguin is finding krill amongst all the phytoplankton. And you can see all that krill in clouds. And the penguin is just eating and finding them. And they're so agile. They're so graceful in the water. I don't study the penguins, but Dr. Megan Semino does. And I have if you want to follow her on Instagram, it's at Palmer_birders. And there's also a lab website. Yeah, isn't it amazing? And they also attach satellite tags on the penguins to see how long they're foraging for, how long the trips are, where they are, where do they find their food. And so they learn so much about what penguins eat. So it's just an incredible experience to be able to work with those penguins. And so, yeah, as you know, so krill are very important for penguins and for the whales as well. And you can see some of the krill that they caught, and some of them will have that green. You can see the green. So what is that green? Would anybody remember what I mentioned? What is the green? What do krill eat?
Plankton.
Yeah, it's phytoplankton. Excellent. Good job. So yeah, so they're eating the microscopic, plants, not really plants, but close enough. Yeah, so they're grazers. So pretty amazing. Oh, yeah, well, what I haven't discussed yet is what eats a penguin. So we know what penguins eat, but what eats a penguin? And that's going to be this seal. Does anybody know what kind of seal this is? And there are different kinds of krill. The one that we have a lot here is the Antarctic krill. Oh, nice. I see answer sea lion, leopard seal, sea lion. Well, cool thing is sea lions are basically eared seals, so they'll have little ears, but these leopard seals don't. So leopard seals are true seals, and they can eat a penguin whole. These are some pretty impressive predators of the ocean.
Yeah, I'm so scared of them.
Yeah, at some point when we were leaving Litchfield Island, there was one that was just checking us out. It was just curious, but knowing that they're predators is still a bit of a scary experience. So we were able to slowly get away from it because it came over to us to check us out. But we were able to slowly drift away and then heading back safely to station. But what an experience, though. So whales. So we have lots of whales. And as you know, krill are also their main food source. And there are whale researchers here that take little tiny biopsy samples to learn a little bit more about the whale, its health, and also some of the genetics, how are whales related as well. So learn a little bit more about them. And so they usually go out on these zodiacs to try and find them. And they take photos of their tails or their flukes, and I'll show you some pictures of that. Now, humpback whales are the most numerous one here, and if you can look closely, you can see there's what looks like these are the balines of the whales. The balines are very good at trapping krill. So when a whale eats, of course, there's going to be a lot of seawater, right, that the krill are in. So it pushes the seawater out of its mouth, but these balines act as a sieve, so they keep the krill inside the mouth while they're pushing out the water, which is amazing. And so the researchers also use drones. They didn't use them this year, but they've used drones in the past, and they have a permit to do so. And with that, they can get a better sense of the size of the whales. And here's a picture of a mother and calf as well. And so it's pretty fantastic to see that as well. So that could add to a lot of information for them. I got a question if we've ever seen an orca. Well, happenstance.
Yeah.
We did. We saw orcas last week, and that was my very first time ever seeing orcas. And I have some pictures. I don't have them in the slide, but it's pretty impressive. How big are the whales? They're gonna be really big.
I don't know the size.
Maybe like 30 feet or so. I I I would have to Google that, but if I can Google it, you can Google it too. I'm not really sure, but they're really big. So the cool thing about whales is that their flukes, so their tails, if you look at the underside of it, it's like a human fingerprint. Each individual will have a unique underside to their tails. So this is how we can tell different individuals of whales apart. So you can see this one has a lot of these marks and a lot of black, whereas this one here on the lower right is mostly white, and there's very little black on the edge. And then this one has a lot of brown on it. So it's really nice to see all these patterns. So it's sort of very unique, just like our fingerprints. And there are so many whales here. In one picture, here are 3 whales in the same photo. So it's really impressive. There's a lot of food for them here. We have a lot of krill in the area. So not surprisingly, people are studying the krill, the whales, the seabirds. And yeah, we get whales really close to station. So it's really a treat for us when
Yeah.
we are in the galley
Just
eating.
lunch and eating, just like lunch or dinner. Like, oh, we okay.
Oh, look, there's another whale.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have the best view in the world from the galley. And as I said, yeah, krill are very important. So how to find krill and what to eat. And so we use these robots as well that we deploy. And these will travel in the water and they have sensors. And their sensors can tell where the krill are. And depending on the sensor, you can also determine where the phytoplankton are. How deep is the water? It can be pretty deep here, but not as deep as if you go out into the Drake Passage, of course. There are some shallower areas, like 30 meters, but I think a few hundred meters here. There was a question, do you help if you find an injured animal? That's a great question. We don't. We cannot. So as part of the Antarctic Treaty, we cannot be interfering with what is going on. So if, let's say, a leopard seal grabs a penguin, we can't interfere. The leopard seal has to eat too, so it's all part of the life cycle. So yeah, it's sad to watch, but we have to respect the animals as well. And then we also lower these bottles into the water. So we also need to know water chemistry, water temperature, how saline or how salty the water is. So these bottles are being deployed and they go down pretty low, and then all the bottles are open when they go down. And as the whole system gets pulled back up again, the bottles will start closing at those depths. So we can sample water at specific depths, and then we can study more about what nutrients are in the water, what microbes are in the water, how much phytoplankton is in the water. So we can determine a lot of different things. So yeah. I got a question about, does anybody dive or swim to study the marine life? Yes, we do have divers, or we had divers here on station, Chuck and Maggie Amsler. They've been doing some tremendous work, and they've studied the algae here, and they've been doing some long-term research on them. It's pretty amazing. They're fantastic people. USAP is the U.S. Antarctic Program. And so they kind of oversee, they have a lot of say in like the Antarctic support contract and everything. My work would not be possible without the USAP. Let's see. Okay, so, and then the other thing that we can deploy are these gliders. I mentioned them earlier. You saw Abby and Charlotte earlier in the lab, and they were standing, between one of these type of gliders. So these are robots, basically, and we can communicate with them through satellite. And what they do is they travel up and down the water column. And depending on the sensors, they can measure temperature, conductivity, and the depth. They can measure a whole bunch of other things as you're traveling up and down the water column. So one of these, if you deploy these for two weeks or so in the ocean, that's equivalent to at least 2 months of people doing this work. So they've really made the work quite a bit more efficient, and they gather so much data. Okay, so it's really cool. So as I stated earlier, we have people looking at the different aspects of the puzzle that is the Antarctic marine food web and how these are all linked together. How do the puzzle pieces fit together? So we have Dr. Megan Semina. So those were her videos that I showed earlier. And so she has been studying the seabird populations for a while. And then we have Dr. Debbie Steinberg. And just fantastic. So she's been interested in the zooplankton and like the krill. And then we have Dr. Oscar Schofield, who's been studying the plants or the phytoplankton. And then we also have Dr. Ari Friedlander, and he studies the different kinds of whales that are in the area, but also some information on the seals as well. So it's pretty amazing how different people with different expertise all work together to try and understand the bigger puzzle of the Antarctic marine food web. So it's truly a privilege to be doing research here in Antarctica. As you can see, it's just a fantastic area to do research. And the Antarctic support contractors are amazing. They help us so much with the science. Without them, we couldn't do it. It is just an absolutely privilege just to be here and see the natural scenery. It just looks so, I mean, it is incredible. And it's incredible during the day and it is incredible at night as well. So this is just like a couple of weeks ago when I took this photo as well. So it's absolutely fantastic to be here. And just so you know, we on Monday was a very cool day. It was International Women's Day. So we had all the women on station take a photo. And so here we are. Anyway, several of these women, they're either grantees or part of the Antarctic Support Contract. And so, as I said, we are like one big family, and it's just such a privilege to be working with such amazing professionals. And yeah, just very lucky. So I know I have a lot of questions in the chat that I haven't gotten to. So I'll be looking through that as well. But if people have more questions, you're free to ask them in the chat as well. I have this Zoom meeting for another 15 minutes, so we can spend some time for for questions. All right, so let's see. Has an orca ever splashed a boat? Not that I can recall. We barely see any orcas here. I do know that there's been some orca sightings up in the northern hemisphere where they're like overturning boats. So, but that hasn't happened here. Let's see. Or what happens if there's a major injury like a broken arm? So it depends on how bad the fracture is. We can treat some of that in the clinic, but if things really need to be looked at by a hospital, they would have to travel back to the US. So, sorry, back to the mainland, at least to South America, where there's a hospital where they could go to. And so it depends on how they travel back. Like if there is a ship that happens to be picking some of us up, one of the research vessels, then they could go back on that vessel, or we might check with cruise ships or so that are in the area to see if they have any space if they're heading back north. Or we can check with all the research stations to see if they have a resupply vessel. There's different ways that this could be done. I'm not a logistics person. But that's just things that I've heard here. Are there walruses or just seals? There are no walruses here, but we do have several species of seals. So we have the Antarctic fur seal, we have the crab-eater seal, we have the Weddell seal, we have the elephant seal, and then we have the leopard seal. So those are so that's a lot of seals. What do I do in my free time? I like to hike. I like to go up on the glacier. I like reading too. What do you do in your free time?
Oh, socializing. Sometimes I miss that, so we just go out to the bar and drink a little and talk with people. Yeah, so yeah, we like
Watch
a big
movies.
family, so we are like always doing stuff together here.
Yeah.
Like watching movie, playing games, everything like we do like to support each other. So our free time is always like that.
Yeah, so it's really nice that we can socialize. Yeah, and some people organize games that we can participate in, card games maybe. And so yeah, it's really fun. So we can do social things, or if you do want to be away from people, you step outside and you go for a hike or
Don't have too much people outside, so it's easy to get alone.
exactly. What is my time zone? My time zone is the same as Chile. So right now for me it is 2:45 or 2:46 just now. So that's 2 hours difference from Lubbock. I know that from Texas. Okay. What kind of sample processing can you do in the labs at Palmer Station? So I'm not sure. So what we do is we do our experiments. So when Diego and I were doing the lab experiments, we will freeze those samples at the end, and then we'll sequence them back in the labs at home. So we're gonna be sending them back. So and that works out just fine. There might be sequencing capabilities here, but I'm not really sure if we have a qPCR machine or not, but I have one in the lab at home. How many hours of sleep do you get? Depends on how early I go to bed, but normally at least 7 to 8 hours or so. And then Beth asked, are there more hours of sunlight there? There is currently in this where we are at compared to the US. But now we're heading more into the winter time, so the daylight is getting shorter and shorter.
When we arrive, it's just like daylight, just
Yeah.
day, never have a night.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was different.
It was very different earlier on in the season. So around December 21, especially, that's the longest day for us, where it's longest night where you're all at. So on December 21, even after the sun set, it was still pink on the horizon. So we didn't really see any stars for a long time. It just remained just pink the whole time. And it's just pretty fantastic. But we have good blinds to shut out the lights. So
Yeah,
we need it.
we need definitely.
Yeah. How tall are the glaciers? It depends on what glacier you're looking at. There's many different glaciers, hundreds of glaciers along the peninsula. I'm not really sure about the thickness, I guess. The one we have in the backyard is not going to be like super tall, probably about 50 meters high, if that. Let's see. Oh, I have some more involved questions. I'm kind of like going more towards the questions that are geared by the uh by the by all the kids basically. So if there are some questions about, let's say I have a question about Congress or a question about microbes, how they differ from other ecosystems, I'm happy to email you some of those questions then as well. What is my background? Oh, that's a good question. I grew up in the Netherlands, so you might hear an accent. And my mom is Panamanian, so I'm half Panamanian, half Dutch, and then now I'm a US citizen. I've been a US citizen for quite a while now. I've been living in Texas since 2002. I loved watching documentaries. And actually watching Grizzly Adams made me interested in learning more about nature. And then I watched MacGyver as well about that same time or maybe a little later. And I wanted to be a scientist. So I kind of combined science and nature together. Yeah, I don't know. That's my background. What about you?
Oh, I'm from Brazil, so I was just growing up and like wanting to study more to understand how life goes on in different organism, and then I fell in love with moss. And then I started to study with moss, and so I did biotechnology after I did my master's in biology, and now I'm working with Dr. Van Gestel and the biology department in the United States, and it's been amazing.
Yeah. So yeah, that's basically our background as well. All right, and I got another question. Why does the sky look so different in Antarctica? It's just cloudy on this picture, but it gets very sunny and the skies it can be super blue. We don't have any light pollution, we don't have any air pollution here, and so the skies can be very clear. But most of the time, it's cloudy again
It's
today.
cloudy.
So just
It's
kind of like
snowing, yeah.
or snowing. Yeah. So I hope that answered your question. Do you see blue and gray whales? We haven't seen blue or gray, but we did see fin whales just a few days ago. So that was a good question. Do you have snowball fights? I don't know. I haven't, but maybe you.
Yeah,
Yes.
Yes.
So yeah, that's always fun to engage in that. Can anyone visit or only researchers? So can anyone visit? Yeah, you can visit. There are cruise ships as well that come down here. But if you're a researcher, okay, oh, sorry, there's a lot of, yeah, there you go. Yeah, when you're a researcher, yeah, and you have a grant funded, then you can come down to station. And the station, as I mentioned, it's being run by the U.S. Antarctic Program, which is managed by the National Science Foundation. And so, yeah, so if you're a contractor, if you're a grantee, but also if you're a tourist, then maybe you won't be able to go on one of those research trips, but you can still visit station. And there's a lottery as to what ships will visit station. But yeah, you can go to Antarctica and have some amazing experiences as a tourist as well. Oh, grandpa's from the Netherlands. Oh, that's really cool. Huh. Do you use the Canada Goose jackets?
Oh, yeah. The one I have, the brown one, is Canada Goose jacket.
Oh, I guess so. I didn't know that that's what they were called, but okay. Chiego says yes. How many people work where you work? So we have about 40 people on 42 or 43 people on station right now. But this is one of the stations that it's not as big as McMurdo. Some McMurdo station will have over 1,000 people. Oh, if I came back to Texas, would you be very hot? Oh yeah, I'm so used to the cold that if I do go back to Texas, even if it's 80 degrees, I'm gonna be, I built a layer of insulation because of all the good food here. So yeah, I'm definitely gonna be a little warm. Do you like it? Do you all like it there? Can you live there forever? Oh, well, I don't know about forever. I do
Yeah.
miss some of the amenities from back home, and I do miss my family and my cats. We have 3 cats. So.
I miss trees. I miss like nature, like because we grow up like with a type of environment, and here it's just like snow, moss, like the biggest plants you have here. So, and sometimes you just miss silly stuff like going to the supermarket and just looking price and looking stuff. Because as I said before, if you go out, you probably will be alone, and sometimes you just miss like people and talking with different people and yeah. So live here forever, I don't think so. But being here like for 6 months is being amazing.
I could probably stay a little longer, but I do miss, yeah, but as Diego said, there's a lot of things that we miss, just as he said, like going to the grocery store or something, or seeing the trees, or seeing hummingbirds, or
Oh, birding singing. How I miss that. Like I love penguins, but they sing so badly.
yeah, penguins don't sing, so yeah,
The sound they do is no, it's not good.
oh, that is so funny. And Caitlin, yeah, I saw that. I will say hi to Hannah for her. Okay, and can that dogs or cats survive here? Yes, they could, especially if they're also kept indoors. Actually, back in the 70s or so, we have some pictures from the winter over. So the crew that stays here in winter time, and for the first few winters when the station was built, they had dogs, but dogs were no longer allowed after a certain time. So yeah. And do I see polar bears? No, that's something I discussed earlier in the presentation. So we have no polar bears, but but even going to the Arctic, I mean, I've not seen a polar bear ever. But yeah, we don't have them here, so it would be hard. But yeah, no, I've never seen one, but I would love to see one in the Arctic for sure. If I've ever had an injury, I have not. But I do know somebody who was rushing to grab a quick photo of something, and he was running over some rocks at the end here that's close to station, but he slipped and then kind of like twisted his wrist or something. But he was able to. Oh, he dislocated his thumb. That was it. But he was able to somehow like put it back in place and run back to the doctor. And then it's a good thing he was able to do it so quickly. Otherwise it could have been worse. So yeah, I think that was it. All right. Well, it was my joy to see you all. Actually, let me stop sharing the screen really quick. And I just wanted to say hello to everybody, and for Lillian as well for answering the question so quickly. I am very impressed. I really enjoyed saying hi to everybody, and how many of you have joined. It was such a joy. And hi, Dawn. This is great. So thank you so much. It was such a privilege to be talking to you and to engage with you. So I hope it was a valuable learning experience. We both really enjoyed doing this. So
amazing.
thank you so much.